Move your cap and place it properly on the seat next to you. All right, this afternoon we're going to go over the questions that you all asked this morning that you placed on the 5x7 cards. And again, I thank you. And thank you for placing them on the cards. And for the most part, they're all legible. Except for Danny's. We'll hunt you down by your penmanship. All right, the one question I got, post-service officers should have a checklist of forms needed. DD-214, marriage license, death certificate, and so on. Yes, they should. I actually have a checklist I go by to make sure that I get the proper forms that I need for each category I'm doing. Whether it's an initial claim, it's a new, just a new claim, you know, one that's already been filed, but this is a new claim for new issues. For DIC, what I need for DIC, just a dependency claim, just a 686, what I need for that. I have a checklist for each one that I go by. It helps me, okay? So for your post-service officer, if you would like, tell them, do that. All right, this is what I need. I need a checklist. I need to have this form. Okay. Now, if they're going to be doing completely a brand new original claim, they have nobody representing them, then you know what they need to do. They need to start off with the 2122. If they don't have private medical records, we need the 0966. So we need all them forms. Have your service officer get with us, and we can help them. We can help them make their own checklist to their liking, not to our liking, to their liking. All right? So now what I'm going to do, we're going to turn this over to Ed and Alan, and we're going to have them go through the questions that you all had asked.
Well, the first question we have is about severance pay. Why does it need to be repaid and when? Unfortunately, it's in the regulation that if you have severance pay and you're getting compensation from the VA, it has to be repaid, but not more than what you make on compensation or pension. Any other questions about severance pay? No? Okay.
That's severance pay.
That's pretty simple.
And that's severance pay.
You didn't answer the question. You've already repaid part
On the question was about DD-214s. Do we need all of them or just the most recent? If he or she was active duty and they have multiple enlistments, we just need the last 214. For National Guard and Reserve, if they were injured on an inactive or active duty training period, and there's a 214 that covers that period where they were injured, we would like that 214, and then their final 214 if they're no longer in the Reserve or Guards. Thing on Guard medical records. VA does not keep National Guard medical records. Those are kept by the state adjutant's office of whatever National Guard department they were a part of. So if a veteran was injured on the National Guard duty, the state adjutant has those records, and have them contact the state adjutant for those copies. Now, if they went to Iraq or Afghanistan under federal orders, those are with the federal government. But any of their state duty is with the adjutant. So have them contact those folks when they're looking for their medical records. All right? And that was that. This one.
What are some suggestions or advice to give active duty and or reserve service members to ensure that they are prepared to submit their claims post-active duty? One of the best changes we've seen over the years has been the active duty of giving TAP classes of preparing the veteran, preparing the active duty person to be a veteran. So that's probably one of the best programs that we have, that you can actually get educated in how to file a claim or when to file a claim. So those are important classes for every active duty member to go to. Anyway, I think I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, the question is it recommended or required for veterans to receive or routinely continue to receive services at the VA to ensure they keep their disability rating and or receipt of death benefits? On that, the VA now has to pay non-VA emergency care to veterans who go to the emergency room in areas where the VA is not. The catch to that is the veteran has to be an active participant in the VA system to be reimbursed for that non-emergency care at the non-VA hospital. The best way to stay active in the VA system is to go back and get an annual physical through the VA. And that keeps you active in their system. So if you receive emergency care at a non-VA center or hospital, the VA will reimburse you for that expense. If you're not on the active system, then it's out of your pocket. And that's currently how the federal law goes for that. And I want to show you something. Hang on, I'll show you something. This is the federal law for VA. This is everything, start to end, on what a VA is required to do. And it's not in Reader's Digest form. This is the book that explains the first book. And me and Ron, we tapped the heck out of this book. Okay? So when Ron put up that slide of that legal mumbo jumbo, that's verbatim out of this book, and we read the interpretation in this book, just to let y'all know. Yes, sir.
Okay, one thing on going to a non-VA hospital, like you just mentioned, when they go and they're a member or they're active with their VA medical treatments, do not show that Social Security card, Medicare card, because if they take that Medicare card, then the VA is going to revolt on making payment, and a lot of times they don't want to pay.
Currently there's a Stobbs versus, I think it's McDonald, that's the case we were talking about in Indianapolis. The VA, there's a case in front of the federal courts. It was one of the lower cases that they have to pay whether it's a third party or not. They'll just pay whatever the third party doesn't pay. That's currently going through the courts. The new VA director, when he was getting cross-examined in the Senate, he said he was going to withdraw their case for that. That has not happened yet. So currently, you're right, but it's been overturned, and the VA has gone to a higher court to get that overturned. Okay, so it's a wait and see what really happens. Okay, Ed, I think the next question is yours.
Okay, thanks a lot. If a veteran retires after 20 years, can he apply for VA benefits? The short answer is yes, absolutely. Any further questions on that one? Okay.
What are the limitations? You said the short answer is yes. There's got to be a long answer. Does not have limitations or exclusions?
Well, there aren't any limitations that you can look up that I can think of off the top of my head. There are quite a few things that if you try and claim that you're not eligible for, that will slow down. So if you apply for issues that are pertinent to your case, for your disability, that helps. But the answer for the 20 years is as long as he has good, credible service and does not dishonorable discharge, he should be able to apply for benefits to the people.
The question is, how do you want claims submitted, in person or certified mail? For me, Ron, and Ed, if the file's not too big, you can send us that through email. And we'll look it over, and we have the ability to do a direct upload to the VA. It goes to their mail portal, sits there and gets sorted out to the right departments, and then the claim's active. If it's too big, then you'll have to mail it to us. And by too big, what's the restriction for the mail from VA on our accounts? Do you remember? I don't remember either. It's a number.
It varies by day to day.
Whatever the case feels like.
One day a guy tried to send me his 214 and it kicked it back, said my mailbox was full. Another veteran the same day sent me 78 pages and it went through. So I guess it just depends, but if it's 300 pages, just mail it to us.
And
Our fax machine only takes 5 pages at a time and then it jams. So if you're trying to send us 300 pages by fax, we're not going to get it. It's going to tell you it did not connect. So just be aware of what you're trying to send and be cognizant of what kind of equipment that we have in our offices. We don't have big equipment, okay? So if you're trying to send 300 pages to us either by email or fax, we're not going to get them. So.
Also remember that when you mail us, you're actually mailing the VA regional office mailroom in Waco. That's where we work. And it's the same thing for Houston. It's going to go to the VA mailroom first. And then it gets sorted out to us. So you may mail it on Monday, Waco may get it on Thursday, we may not get it physically till Monday. Okay? So if you call us and I say, we haven't received the claim yet, don't give up hope. It might be just stuck in the VA mailroom for a couple of days. Any questions on how to submit a claim to us?
The question here is, my father-in-law received waiver for VA health care in 2015. After that, he filed a compensation claim, EVA rep at Waco. It was denied in September 2016. I assisted him with an appeal and submitted medical evidence May 2017. He has not received acknowledgement of an appeal received. Would American Legion Service Officer be able to assist my follow-up for him? He is currently 91 years old, World War II Korean War veteran. Thank you for the question. Yes, as long as we have the power of attorney on file, we can go ahead and research the appeal for you. Without the 2122, the power of attorney form, we can't access any kind of records on your behalf. So we need to have the 2122 on file. But we'll be glad to help out. Also, at 91 years old, someone should be putting in paperwork to expedite his case due to his advanced age.
Is there an update to the VA's position on sleep apnea connected to PTSD? No. Everything that I've seen come across my desk when it comes to PTSD or sleep apnea being secondary to PTSD, the first thing VA puts out is, no, obesity causes sleep apnea. And they pretty much stuck to that reason. Ron's had a couple of cases in front of the BVA to connect sleep apnea to PTSD. We're still waiting on the outcome, but the VA is pretty much so far not acknowledged that sleep apnea could be secondary to PTSD. But Ron has proved that it could be.
Mayo Clinic has done studies. There's quite a few stuff on the internet to prove that sleep apnea and PTSD are linked. And that's what we argue when we go in front of the judge, that they are linked. So hopefully, with those studies that we get from the Mayo Clinic and everywhere else, we can start getting these veterans service-connected or secondary to their PTSD off of those. But no, VA hasn't done anything to say it. So.
The next question is, do you go by all witnesses if you have been told your medical records disappeared? If you don't have any medical records, then it's to behoove you to get a hold of your friends, family, anybody who is willing to write letters, buddy statements saying that they witnessed your symptoms or your disability in action. Because the more of a file is built for yourself, the better the chance that you might get service connection. Any further questions on that one? No? Okay.
This is a good question. I like it. If you file for disability, unemployability, or otherwise, do they review and change your percentage rating you're currently rated at, and could you get a lower rating? Yes. That can happen. There are certain rules where VA will not reduce your rating. It's whether you've been rated currently and steadily for 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years. If you've been rated, say, on a knee condition at 20% for 20 years, after 20 years, that knee will not go lower than that percentage rate. Okay, at 5 years, it's supposed to take conclusive evidence that the condition has improved. And 10 years, they can't do it just based on one exam. But let's say a veteran put in for unemployability, it was granted, and then he wants to increase, say, 6 months later for his PTSD. He goes in, does the PTSD exam, and the VA doctor gives the opinion his condition has gotten better. He's no longer, he's rated at 70. The doctor goes, no, he's not at 70%, he's 30. Yes, the VA will reduce. Happens all the time. We warn veterans that file for an increase to be aware, if the VA doctor feels your condition has improved, they will write that in their opinion, and the VA will propose to reduce the condition, whatever it may be. Any questions on that?
Joe writes, how can I get a list of the documents required to complete an application for World War II spouse? Death pension benefits question. Well, Joe, as we talked before, we would have to find out a little bit more about the veteran in question. If we had the power of attorney, we could look up and see what documents are in the system now to verify what other documents may be needed. But in this case, we're looking at either a 534 form for a DIC or a pension form, depending on the situation. So just get a hold of us and we'll look it up for you. And if we don't have power of attorney, you can get your widow to give us power of attorney. We'll be glad to look it up for you. Anyway.
This question is on transgenders and identification of sex. The VA is still trying to come up with a clear-cut policy on that. If the veteran left the service male and then 5 years later becomes female, how that affects service-connected ratings, particularly if it's, let's say he's rated for erectile dysfunction. And it works the other way too, from female to male. We've gotten some information, but there's still more information coming out, and we're just waiting to see what the VA will determine. Doesn't really answer your question, I'm sorry, but that transgender is kind of in flux right now, and we're waiting to see what the VA does. Any questions on that?
What if an active duty member puts in What if an active duty member puts in for a change while on active duty in the military pays for it, and there's a botch somewhere along the way? Will they be able to go and put a disability through the VA once they get out?
That should be service connected because it was a procedure botched while they were on active duty. Okay? But I really don't know because I've not had that case come up yet, so it's more of a wait and see what happens.
What sort of records should both service officers keep, and what restrictions or requirements apply? That's a good one. Basically, the records you should keep are a record of every veteran who comes to your office who files an application. You should have the forms necessary to service that veteran with a claim. But there aren't any restrictions as far as that I know of that are mentioned in the Post-Service Officer's Guidebook about what restrictions there are or aren't. But if you just keep the office files of the veterans you work with, and keep the forms, the blank forms, then it's really all you need.
They should be, because it's so secure.
Question related to that, because some of this stuff, and with her follow-up as far as locking it up, because some of this information deals with HIPAA and people's medical records, should the post be maintaining those kind of files at all?
I haven't heard of any problem with the demo, the post having that. The medical records are released to the veteran, and the veteran has his own release form, so, I think that will carry on to the service officer. But it should be a problem.
But if the service officer is uncomfortable with keeping medical information of that particular veteran, he or she can give those records back to that veteran.
I was just going to look at, I don't have my 990 compliance with me, and I'm not sure if it's even in there, but there's a restriction page on time limits on keeping certain forms that I don't know if that's included in there or not, in 990 compliance.
I only keep a claims form as long as the claim's active. Once it's been adjudicated, I get rid of it. Because the claim is closed, it's already in the system that we can see. So once the VA has it in their system, I get rid of the paper copies. At our office, we no longer need them. As long as it's on the VA system and I'm looking at it, I can assist the veteran with his claim.
Now,
with their claim.
in relationship to a post-service officer,
That would-
what might be needed to keep on file? I don't know the answer to that.
I don't either.
That'd be where to look.
That would be probably something for the department adjutant or local judge advocate.
At the last DEC, they did put out a list, the judge got to put out a list of how long you're supposed to keep various documents. Now, whether that's on there, I don't know, I haven't looked.
And the last 3x5 part question I have is, what do you do when,
You know, you're talking about that, keeping records as county service officers, and myself, we don't have the complete access to all the veterans not being certified. We don't have access to that, so we have to keep certain files on all our veterans in our offices, you know, in locked filing cabinets. So we do that at the county level, but now at our post level, we wouldn't even have a spot because our post isn't that big. And my post service officer wouldn't have any knowledge of how to keep that stuff on file. So no, I would not suggest if a post service officer goes and helps a veteran, go and do it, but let the veteran keep his own file on himself in his own hand, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Possession. So, and then if he goes to the county service officer, he can take that to them and then they can filter out what they want to do, or to down to, you know, department service officers. So, yeah, I would, as a post service officer, I would not keep that stuff on file at a post hall because 90% of the post halls don't have big offices where they can keep all that stuff. So I would make sure that the veteran or the member keep his own file.
if you're going to reiterate, we got it.
In his discussion, he said he's a county service officer, not certified. Our county counselor is not certified.
You'd have to take that up to the Department of Texas.
Is it?
We're certified, but not accredited.
Okay. So it's up to the department takes whether they want to recognize it.
Right. Okay. And Owen, while we're talking about paperwork, when the VA sends out a notification letter, regardless of what it's about, whether we received your claim, denied or accepted your claim, if you ever read it to the end, there's this little paragraph saying, we've sent a copy of this paperwork to your representative. No, that's a bold-faced lie by the VA. They don't send us copies of anything. They put it on the system and expect us to find it. And the only time we go looking for it is if when you call us asking about a claim. So if you get a veteran and they say, well, look, it sent y'all a copy, that's not what the VA is saying. It's on the system for us to go find it. Okay, so please put that out. We get phone calls every day about, you have my records, they just mailed it to you. And that's not true. That's not how it works.
Yeah,
But yeah, everything's electronic now, so it's on BMS and we can look it up. Last question, or 3x5 part question, is what do you do when a previously treated condition reoccurs and the VA declines treatment as it's not service related? That would depend on the condition that we're talking about. The VA will see you if you're in certain priority groups for any medical condition you have. Example would be, I have sleep apnea. It's not service connected, but they gave me a CPAP machine. So the VA will see me for that problem, but I do not get compensated for it. So if it's a medical issue, you go see the VA regularly, yes, they will take care of that problem, but they'll not compensate it because it's not service connected. If it's service connected, let's say you had a knee replacement, and you're now having problems with the knee, and you put in for an increase for that knee, and the VA is now saying it's not service connected, call one of us for it. Because we can look in there and see what's going on and see what they're trying to say, and we can help you with the appeal or reconsideration or whatever it may be. Typically, the VA is supposed to compensate or reevaluate a condition if it's service connected, particularly if you had a replacement of a knee. Knee replacements are 100% for 1 year after you've had the knee replaced. That's total knee replacement, not partial. After the 1 year convalescent or 1 year 100% is done, then you go to 30%. And you stay at 30% unless there's complications with that knee after the operation. But you'll not go beyond 60, because a person that has an amputation of the knee or leg, knee and below, they top out at 60%. And a veteran cannot get more than what's been amputated. So if you still have both lower extremities, and you have a bad knee, you'll not go beyond 60% because that's the max for an amputee. Did I confuse everybody? Let me clear that up. Any questions on that? Any questions from the floor, I guess?
All right, do we have any other questions that y'all have in your mind that need to be answered? I'll grab her first.
My question is, for individuals, veterans who haven't been to the VA, maybe in years, would you suggest that we advise them to start going again?
Yes, I got a Vietnam veteran who got out in '69, and his first claim with the VA was in 2014. And he's been service connected for PTSD and for tinnitus. So yes, if a veteran has never seen the VA, regardless of how long it's been, please sit them down and talk to them. Let's do a claim for a disability and let's send them to the VA. They need to. Because there's help there and they won't get it unless they ask. Any other questions?
Yeah. If I mail you a paper copy or paper application, do you scan it into the VA system or do you send it to Janesville for that?
I scan it and it gets sent to Janesville. Janesville is the mail portal, so whether you send it through paper or electronically, it goes there, and then they sort it out and send it to the right department for whatever the claim may be or paperwork may be for it.
Do you rather us send it to you so you can review it before it goes to Janesville?
Yes, sir. I would like everybody to send their paperwork to us, whether you fax it, mail it, or email it to us first so we can review it, because it alleviates a lot of problems. Right now, I'm helping a veteran who's claiming Agent Orange exposure. Only problem was he didn't join the Army until '84 and he got out in '90. So I'm having to explain to him why he can't file for Agent Orange exposure. And I've not submitted his claim until I get him to understand that if we file it as is, they're going to kick it back. And I'm trying to prevent that. So please send it to us and let us look at it. And yeah, he never left the States. Is there any other questions?
Do we have any more questions y'all want to ask about?
If it's a trick question, I'll give it to Dick.
No, I didn't get your question.
Service connection for hearing and tinnitus.
It's a sore subject with
A
me.
very common a very common service connection that veterans believe that they want to file for. Now, I don't know what some of the outpatient clinics are doing, or the same with the VA medical center, but some of these folks are under the impression that if they currently have hearing aids that were purchased by themselves, they can automatically go to the outpatient clinic and get those serviced, and if they're inoperable or whatever, get new ones. That is not true.
No, sir. First thing, the problem is you use the one word you can never use with the VA, automatic.
That's it.
Because they'll automatically give you a hard time. That's true. Hearing is a sore subject with me because I spent 21 years in the Army. I worked on Apache helicopters. I was a weapons guy on those. Apparently, according to the VA, my hearing is fine for what I did. And that's in my letter. I have no idea what that means, but I'm not service connected for hearing. The way the VA does hearing, they look at your entrance exam and your separation exam. If there's not a significant shift, and significant shift is defined by the VA, God help us, then you did not suffer hearing loss while you were in service. And the VA is great, because if you come back 20 years later claiming hearing loss, and no, that's civilian occupation, that has nothing to do with what you did in the service. So hearing loss is a very touchy situation for me, because you can ask around my wife or other people, I can't hear too well. Even though my wife says it's selective hearing because I'm married. But that's hearing, and that's in a nutshell. Now on tinnitus, ringing in the ears, I see this a lot. A lot of veterans go in for tinnitus, and the VA doctor will ask them, when did the ringing start? About 5 years ago. You look at the 214, they've been out 10 years. Guess what happens? It's not service connected. So I kind of tell veterans, it happened in service. Because tinnitus, the doctor can't look in your ear and tell us. Either you have it or you don't. It's based on what you tell the doctor. So that's hearing and tinnitus.
It's like being pregnant. You either are or you're not.
That's true.
All right, yeah, hearing is a very sore subject. I blew both my drums in an explosion in Iraq, and my exit and entrance and exit exam do show significant shift, and they told me my hearing got better.
I just want to make a comment about the forms. We were talking about forms earlier. I'm not a lawyer or anything else like that, but I'm telling you what, if you've got somebody's medical information, or if you've got their social security number, or anything that could be cause them detrimental to be getting insurance or anything else like that, all that stuff needs to be locked up. Do not put this stuff out where other people can see it. That will put you in a court real quick. If somebody's social security number gets out that wasn't supposed to get out, or somebody's health information gets out and you damage their ability to get insurance or whatever because of that, you become liable. So I would suggest if you're keeping anyone's information, lock it up.
I would just go back to one of the suggestions if you're a post-service officer, just don't keep that information, return it all back to the veteran.
I keep my stuff in a locked drawer inside the office because I don't even trust the people in that office.
Well, we got TVC.
Yeah, if you're TVC, sorry, I don't trust you. Speaking of forms, if you want to get the latest form, if you don't want to write this down, it is kind of simple to get. You go to va.gov, and you go all the way down to the bottom of the page. You'll see a list of stuff, and there's search for forms. This is the easiest way that I've been able to explain to veterans that has said, I want a new form. You go to search for forms, it's in the middle column of all the list of what they want. It's probably halfway down that middle column. It's on the bottom of the page. Just click on search for forms, and then the search for forms page will come up. And then let's say you want to search for a brand new VA form 2122. You just type in VA form 2122, or not VA form, just type in 21-22. and then it should come up. And you can do that with all the forms. Let me get back to the ones that we use. Because there are some of the forms we use that are 21 papa. For you Navy people, that's a P. I like these little clickers. And we're not going over this again. Oops, there we are. Okay. Your income verification, your burial benefits, medical expense, those are all 21 papas. If you search for those forms, or if you search for a form and you just put in 21, whatever the form number is, and it doesn't come up, try putting in 21 papa dash whatever the form number is, and then it should come up. And that'll give you the latest VA form.
I think you were talking like 5:30.
I've done that. It does work, but it'll give you everything the VA has that has a 530 in it. So if you know what the form is that you're looking for, it's best if you do the 21 dash. And if you don't know what the form is, then just give us a call, and we'll tell you what the form is. And if you forget how to get to where the search for forms is, you can always type in the search for forms, or just forms, and it'll pop up in their search. Anything else to help them out with?
Just a couple of things for post-service officers. If if you have a veteran that comes in and they are collecting individual unemployability, i.e., which Ron touched on, each year they have to fill out a form,
An income
income verification form, and send it to the VA. If they do not, the VA will no longer pay them the IU rate. And they require that form once a year. Now 55, 60 is, that's in case you have an overpayment, you want to request a waiver. But the income verification form or the employment form is very important. If they don't send it in, the VA will discontinue their individual unemployability and their Chapter 30 education benefits for their children. And they have to send that in once a year. It's always been that way. For IU, ever since I've been working here, if you don't send that in, they stop it. I see it every day on claims reviews. So, well, as long as they keep sending that form in, they will. But that is important. Send that form in. Don't mess around with it. I had one more point and a funny story about severance pay. I can't remember the point, so I'll do the funny story about severance pay. I had a veteran walk in the office. He was active duty, got out as a sergeant, was given $30,000 severance pay. A couple of years later, he decides he wants to join the Army Reserves. Joins the Army Reserves, stays in long enough for he can retire. He retires, starts drawing his retirement pay. Then he notices retirement pay is short because he got a severance pay. And you can't do that. Severance pay is one of those pays where you promised you wouldn't re-enlist or you promised you wouldn't file a claim, but he did, and he was mad because he wasn't getting his full retirement. So I had to sit down, open the big book, show him the law that said that, I'm sorry, you promised you wouldn't do this, but you did it anyway, and now Uncle Sam wants his money back. So that does happen. And I forget what the other date point was, but they'll come to me at midnight and I'll tell you all tomorrow. Is there any questions?
One last question for me.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Get her first. Okay.
Do you foresee any changes with benefits or anything?
President Trump just recently signed a new GI Bill that is called the Forever Bill. It's still new. I have to go back and reread some of the some parts of it. From my basic understanding, what I've read so far, you know, the time limit on the post 9/11 GI Bill, that's going to go away. That the veteran on the forever GI Bill, he could be 90 and decide to go back to school and he should still have the GI Bill. Also, there's a small change to the automobile grant, and it just affects Hurricane Harvey and Florida and parts of Louisiana. The automobile grant is a one-time grant to a disabled veteran to help, or the VA helps the veteran buy an automobile. If that's happened, and that automobile has been totaled because of the hurricanes, the VA, once they have proof that that vehicle was a granted vehicle and that it was totaled, the VA should, and the key word is should, because nothing's guaranteed with the VA should do a second grant for another automobile. And that came out in an email last week. Okay? So on the Gulf Coast area, if you have veterans, they had an automobile grant, that's good information you need to know. I think we got one question back there first.
Just real quick. If you are a post-service officer, would you just raise your hand so I can get a count? Because I have to write an article and I don't know a lot of you and I apologize. If I point to you, put your hand down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8. Any other post? Thank you.
I think we had a question up front. It's almost a quarter.
Right quick, we have a rehabilitation center we've adopted. We got 18, 19 average veterans or residents there, and we've lost 6 of them in the last 5 weeks. And I've got your books about the benefits. What form does the family need when the person passed away? Do they claim burial benefits that they put into the DIC?
If the person is paying for the funeral, like the surviving spouse, they would put in for the burial benefits and the DIC.
Okay.
And you have to do both forms.
And they do that after the funeral, they get all expenses bills back in, right?
And the VAs want a copy of the bill so they know, pretty much how much they got to pay. Yes. Death certificate is important. Also, please take this back to your post. When it comes to widows, in the VA, nothing moves unless there's a death certificate and a DD-214. Okay? And I don't care if they were receiving VA compensation and are already on file. Please bring a 214. I believe it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Yes, sir.
One addition to that, the widow, on her behalf, needs to resubmit another 2122.
Yes, the widow will have to do another 2122. Because once a veteran dies, so does the POA. It's gone, and we can no longer look in there. But the widow can come in and we can help them do another 2122. Any other questions from the floor?
This is, this could be, for more service officers, somebody needs a discharge. They don't have their DD form 214. That standard form SF 180, they can make that out. And if it's not the veteran, or if it's a family member, when they submit that form to the VA, to personal records, they need to submit a copy of the death certificate or some sort of documentation from the funeral home that was the veteran and he passed away. They're not accepting just that now without that, but you've got to have some sort of a verification that that veteran has passed away, and you're requesting basically is for spousal benefits and stuff like that. I have that all the time, and then I request for headstones too.
Correct. Saw a light bulb go off, Bill.
I would just wanted to ask if this information that was in the presentation here is going to be available to us for future reference or for district service officers to share with.
Just because I know you, I won't give you a hard time. What part of give us your email, we'll send it to you not give. Just want to know, you like Navy, Marine Corps, maybe?
She was aviation.
Well, But yes, if you want this, please give us your email and we'll email it out once we get back to Waco.
Reserve component members, whether they're members of the American Legion or not, are entitled to a burial flag. How is that working? Because several may not have a DD-214, but yet they have been in the reserve military for years and years.
What's the form they give reservists when they leave? They're no longer in the reserve. Who decides to do
Well, you get a discharge. You get a discharge form. Yeah, but the only document you would have, there's an initial DD-214 for training, which does not qualify for any VA benefits. If you're not on active duty for 30 days or more after that, then you get nothing. Yet there is a benefit for a flag, and I'm not sure, and I think also a headstone. I'm not really sure.
It's the same form, and you'd have to submit like a letter from that individual's chain of command, or if he retires from the reserves, that letter that he gets when he retires, submit that with the paperwork.
Okay, that would be sufficient instead of a DD-214.
Or whatever the orders may be.
All right. Okay. Thank you.